Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Art of Gridding. And this week I'm joined by Stephen Sonsino, who is the founder of Authors Channel. And it's a fascinating concept. But I'm going to pass over now, Stephen, and say, well, firstly, welcome. And please, if you could just give us a bit of an intro to yourself and what the Authors Channel is all about.
Well, it's great to be here, and Authors Channel is a side hustle. I'm a leadership professor. I work at London Business School and other business schools around the world. And together with Jacqueline Moore, my wife and business partner, we just kept getting approached by people saying, "You've written books, how can I do the same?" And so we've started coaching and guiding people through that process. And while we've captured that process in linear form, in a sort of checklist, when I heard about Method Grid from a mutual friend of ours, Tim Phillips, I thought, well, this is worth looking at. And when you demoed it to me, I was just blown away by how easy it is to use. And so today it's just been great to have your early feedback on our first Method Grid.
Yeah, and I should say, actually, I mean, what's happened is, Stephen, you've asked to sort of podcast me, and I've said, well, hey, if that's happening, can I have a quick podcast of you on the return, leg? So, no, huge thanks to you just for giving up a short bit of time. And I guess, I mean, we probably first spoke about 2 to 3 weeks ago. So what really blew me away, when we caught up again this morning, is, just how much work you've done in very quick order. So I don't know if you just wanted to talk through, how you found that experience of, taking. You clearly had existing IP, but how you found that exercise of transferring it onto a Method Grid.
Well, you're right. The checklist we had was a sort of 12-step checklist, and people write books in 12 stages. They can be weeks or months, and so what we did was basically transfer the checklist to your Method Grid platform, and basically create these themes, these horizontal themes that result in people can concentrate on writing, they can concentrate on editing, they can concentrate on proofreading, they can concentrate on graphics. We've also put a few project management elements in there, so the orange blocks are project management. Have you checked this before you check that? So adding the labels in was really helpful. Creating color. I'm a very visual person, so I loved the ability to label everything. And to translate the checklist into a Method Grid was supremely easy. And you've got that element, haven't you, where when you complete a particular item, you can click, yes, I've completed it, and that'll change the color, which I just absolutely love that. That was, the first thing that I played with.
No, great. And, and again, it really struck me. I've just, had a sort of summary look, but just, as well as being a clearly sort of really rich resource for an aspirant author. You're already starting to bed out some, the sort of really rich third dimension, which some of the resources and guides and tips you have therein. So I think at a summary level, I think it's a really fantastic illustration of how you can decompose something relatively daunting, I guess, for a new author. I mean, I've been there myself, Stephen, so I know actually how intimidating a start point it is. But if I had your resource 4 or 5 years ago, I would have been hugely supported in terms of just seeing there is a structured way through this journey, and there's resources here that can really sort of help me. So, I mean, it'd be interesting for you to maybe just give your thoughts on what that how you see this enabling the the kind of the newbie book author.
Well, there's two things that are, I think, are very exciting, and I'm not sure I've touched on this with you in our previous calls, but the fact that it's not just a checklist anymore. So Method Grid has allowed us to make it, as you say, this third dimension. You get to point A, and you can open it up, and you see a checklist. You can see a video that kind of reminds you what to do in that section. So I think the richness of the Method Grid platform has allowed us to really make what was a two-dimensional flat checklist useful on its own, but not beyond that, to become much more of a teaching resource. So that step one. The piece that was a complete surprise to us in translating what we had into a Method Grid was how you can, the horizontal themes, we found that, well, should we make that earlier? Should we make that earlier? Should we make that earlier? So being able to sort of almost slide the themes along has made us realize we can do what we do even faster. So it's forced us to reappraise our own IP and to look at the project as a whole. So I think, that's certainly something I would commend people to look at, is don't just take your own IP and embed it in MethodGrid, but actually use the process to reappraise your IP and say, well, actually, have we got it in the right place? Have we got it in the right order? And have we got the right material to support that? So I think the richness of the MethodGrid platform has really allowed us to almost reinvent what we do. And we're literally taking an author from nothing to a printed book in something between 12 weeks and a year. And it's entirely up to you how you model that process. But kudos, MethodGrid has really helped us improve this beyond measure.
No, well, thank you. That's great. That's great feedback.
It was good, but now I think with your help already, it's a much more robust framework that we have, and it's a faster framework. And anybody wanting to write a book is going to be time poor. They will want to do this as quickly as they can, and you've allowed us to do that.
No, that's fantastic feedback. Thank you. And I think you've made a really interesting point there, Stephen, which is the exercise of, capturing IP or translating from existing methodology onto MethodGrid. I think it absolutely does provide that opportunity to sort of, structure thoughts and, potentially recalibrate. And what it'd be fantastic to sort of hear down the line whether it's actually, improved the sort of end process for that. For that aspirant book author, and if it indeed has sort of brought some efficiencies in that regard, I mean, that would be fantastic to hear that. And I think, also to add, and I'm sure you're living this now, is that it will hopefully really facilitate the continuous development and improvement and enhancement that, inevitably goes on when you're, building out methodology and it's been tested in the real world. It's a never-ending process in that regard. But, the design challenge we took on was, how do we make that continuous improvement exercise as simple as possible? So no, thank you for reinforcing that. I'm going to leave a final question with you, Stephen. Is clearly you're positioning this very rich toolbox now as a fantastic resource with respect to your own business, and I guess you, as I understand it, you have a retained professional service for book authors, and you take them from initial whimsical concept through to published, marketed artifact. Can you maybe just talk a little bit about how you see yourself positioning this grid in the bigger picture of your professional service, and how you see it facilitating the sale, as it were, of new clients?
I think you've been very modest in how you see MethodGrid. I think that there are loads of, you only have to Google the words "write a book." I've got on my Twitter feed I'm listening to that phrase. So many people want to write a book, but so few actually do it. I think it's one of the top 10 things we want to do with our lives. And yet there are so many people offering services to help you do that. I'm interested in men and women who are in business, in professional services, who have some expertise that they want to capture in book form. And so if I can show through MethodGrid the steps they have to go through, I'm not going to hide any of the steps, I'm going to show you exactly what needs to be done. But if I can show them a mechanism, a framework that takes them through every step of that process and demonstrates that we have that expertise, there's no one else who's revealing how much about their process. It reminds me of those magicians, Penn and Teller, the ones who do those amazing illusions, and then they show you how they did it. And to me, I thought initially when I started watching them that, well, that was going to spoil all the fun, or I'm not going to appreciate what they did. It's quite the opposite, actually. So I think that, with MethodGrid, showing the internal workings of this quite complex process, a lot of moving parts here, but we're tracking them with MethodGrid. and demonstrating that we are on top of it. And therefore, by implication, our clients and customers, they will be on top of it too. So yes, it's daunting, but it's manageable. Method Grid actually shows that, on one computer screen in front of your face. So I think the thing that I'm very excited about is, literally showing people how it's done. And none of our competitors, there are other competitors out there in the market, but they are much more small scale, looking at family memoirs, looking at people trying to get a book out of their life story. But if you're trying to put your business out there, or your professional service expertise, you want to make sure that you get all of it out there. Method Grid is an amazing tool for that for us, and I look forward to a long relationship. It's going to be amazing for us.
No, great, and I think it's a fantastic example of expertise being sort of captured in a way that will hopefully operate as a great demonstrator of what is clearly manifest expertise your side, Stephen, and also as a great resource that you can hopefully monetize within your overall services. So no, thank you for sort of a really excellent illustration on something a little bit different to some of our our sort of business podcasts. So thank you. Where do people find you, Stephen? If people are interested in authors.fm. Great stuff. Well, I wish you all the very best for that. And I think now I know there are many people that have that ambition, and it's as we've talked about, it's a great piece of IP generally to promote yourself and a business. So head over to authors.fm and you'll find out a lot more there. Stephen, thank you very much for coming on.
Great pleasure. Thank you.